Bert did theirs last
Just so
weekend.
you know, that mic is on now. Is Tom coming?
He said he was going to be here, yes. Yep.
You video recording also or no?
It's live stream.
Forgot about that. I worked last night till 10 o'clock. And then got a leak in a brand new toilet.
Oh.
I went in the one closet. So it's either the bowl's cracked or the toilet flange. So I pulled everything this morning. I'm trying it out, and I gotta go back and see exactly what it is.
Bill can't make it?
Earl, no. No, he said he couldn't make it.
Beautiful day out there.
Gorgeous. We've had a few now.
It's a little warm though the other couple days.
It was so humid. Day before yesterday, it was like.
What do you think, Terry?
I'm okay.
Want to wait a couple minutes yet?
Well, he said he was gonna be here. What time is it? Is it 10 after?
It's about 5 after.
5 after. Give him a couple more minutes. He's usually early though if he's coming, so.
Mm-hmm.
I told Dave I've got to be out of here by 11. I've got another meeting, but next meeting at 11:30. This is my 7th meeting this week.
Well, should we start and you could get caught up?
Yeah. All the meeting to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Have no visitors. Approval of the minutes from May 9th, May 8th. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep, we can hear you, Daryl.
We did. You're loud and clear, Daryl.
All right, you are fading in and out. Maybe it's my phone. Okay, go ahead.
We're on the approval of the minutes.
Okay.
Any questions about the minutes?
No,
I'll make a motion, Terry.
I'll second
Thank
it.
you. Properly moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is the expenses. The vouchers, purchase request, etc.
Expenses for the month of May totaled $44,826.31. Large part of that was the payroll and the fringe benefits.
Any questions on the expenses?
No.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the vouchers.
I'll second it.
I need a second,
I seconded it.
Daryl, but I can't make the motion.
Oh.
Darryl, we need a motion for the expenses.
Okay, I'll make the motion to pay the vouchers.
Thank
I'll
you.
second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, COVID-19 update. Last time we met, it was the campgrounds were opening to county residents only on May 22nd for Memorial Day weekend. We did that. We had roughly 18 campsites, I believe, combination of tent sites and cabins that were occupied, reserved for the weekend. We did keep the main gate closed, and the campers were directed to use the night entrance to gain access to their campsites. The beach area had remained closed at that point in time, as well as the picnic area, pavilions, and group camping area. It went well. We had some campers, not only Memorial Day weekend, but in the weekends since, and sometimes during the week. Some people here, county residents that have never camped here before, have been taking advantage of the of the county only, residency only, looking to get out, obviously, to do something. And so we had some new campers here, some county residents that have never been to the park before, and I've heard some good things. It went well. As far as checking IDs, they came into the office, and the registered camper presented his identification, was asked to complete the paperwork. So that went well with the camping being county only. Since then, the county had adopted a resolution to expand upon that and allow for the beach and swimming area, as well as the picnic area, to be county resident only. That was opened up on June 6th, which coincided with the state parks opening of their beach areas on June 6th at 50% capacity. And we did look at that and felt that 50% would be is what we would want to do. We came up with a number as to how many individuals we would be letting in, something that we felt safe about for not only ourselves as far as following guidance, but as far as the visitors too, as well as social distancing and some of the measures that they need to take place for their own safety. So the first weekend, we were a little bit of concern with how much traffic we would get from Beltsville, with it only being 50%. Obviously, we know Beltsville can fill to capacity fairly quickly, especially if the weather cooperates, and with it only being 50%. and the fact that there are a number of pools closed in the Lehigh Valley area. There's limited options for people as to where they could go. Beltsville is very popular to begin with, so there was concerns with being able to manage traffic flow. But we didn't get the traffic that we expected. From what I understand, talking with the Waterways Conservation Officer on Sunday of that weekend, June 7th it would have been, from what he described to me, he felt that the numbers were down at Beltsville, and that they didn't have the crowd that was expected. Now, I don't know whether weather had a role to play in that. It was a little bit cooler that weekend. But we didn't have that heavy influx of traffic that we were expecting. So things did work out well. I would like to thank the commissioners for setting up assistance with the sheriff's department for us. That I think worked out well too. As far as with verifying county residency, at the gate going into the park. We did turn around people that were non-county residents, and we directed them to the state parks. No particular state park, but just these state parks, depending on where they were coming from. There's Beltsville, there's Hickory Run, there's Locust Lake, and Tuscarora over in Schuylkill County. The state parks are currently open to everybody. Had to explain to some people our situation here being a county park. It is not a state park or a federal park, as some people believe us to be. We're a county park operated through the county government, and as of right now, through June 30th, the way the resolution reads, it's for county, open to county residents only. So the traffic flow worked out well. We didn't have any traffic backed up. The sheriff's presence that the commissioners and the sheriff obviously provided us with, I think, was a big help. That's something that maybe we could even look at moving forward here in the normal season, if the county is willing to do that and the sheriff's willing to give us that help. Maybe even during a normal season on a July 4th holiday weekend, I think that would be something beneficial for us, for us to have. To keep the traffic moving as freely as possible, and just to resolve any issues that we may have or potentially have. Didn't have many issues the first weekend for the swimming. There was some minor issues that we had to contend with, and I can get into that later under the security report. But overall, things went well for us on June 6th and 7th. The busiest day we had actually was on Tuesday. This past Tuesday, I think it was near 90 degrees. It may have hit 90 degrees. We did actually almost reach capacity. Now we did have people leaving, and it's hard to track how many people are leaving. So we did use our judgment there, and we're taking a count at the main gate, but unfortunately we don't know how many people are leaving. So we're trying to get as many people in as we can, and also adhering to the guidance that was provided. But Tuesday was the busiest day overall on the 19th, as far as that 50% threshold. Now we are closing the gate at 6, and I think people should be reminded of that. The swimming hours are until 7 o'clock, but we do close the gate at 6 o'clock. Right now the county is in the green phase, I believe. As of today, as of midnight, it entered the green phase. I did get some information on green phase reopening, and talks about 50% for pavilions. It was decided to open the pavilions as of right now for county residents only through June 30th, and to, I guess it's saying here, 50% would be the suggestion to limit the capacity size facility size to 50%. So that's something that we're going to have to think about with the pavilions, as well as the campsites moving forward. Come July 1st, it's scheduled to open to non-county residents. We have 119 campsites in our main camping area. That's excluding the group sites. And, 50% of that, so we would only be looking at, I believe, based on the guidelines, only going with 50% of the campground capacity, reserving 50% of the sites.
So the question I would offer is it number of people or number of sites, right? I mean, and that's that's ambiguous, right?
Right.
So I don't know, but that's again, just a question.
So you have a number of people that's limited to each site, right?
It's up to 6 people per site, but however, some people reserve for 6, some people reserve for 2, some people reserve for 4.
Are you going to do every other site since that's 50%, or?
We decided not to do every other site just based on the popularity of some of the sites, like the cabins and the lakefront sites, and I think the sites are spaced out enough to where they'll be able to, and each individual site is normally a household living under the same roof.
Right.
So we decided not to arbitrarily pick sites that we would rent and not rent. It would be difficult to do with all the reservations that we have in our system already, and just based on the popularity of some of the sites. How do you determine who moves, who doesn't move,
And the campsites are all over 6 feet apart.
Correct. Yeah, they're spaced out. So that's one thing we'll have to think about is as far as the campgrounds capacity wise, and that's a good point. Is it the number of sites, or is it the number of people? And again, it's not so much the sites as opposed to the restrooms and the bathroom facilities where people are going to tend to congregate.
Because there is another guideline, and again, it says recreational events are not allowed to exceed 250 people.
Correct.
So how do you define a recreational event? One would make an argument camping is a recreational event.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's this different, and again, we do have latitude. They're guidelines.
Right.
They're not laws. So at the end of the day, it comes up to the Park Advisory Board, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and ultimately, your decision.
Right.
And we'll support that.
And it's one reason why we opened up the pavilions. It was thought about. We knew we had a good feeling we were going to the green phase. Well, that number goes from I think 25 to the 250.
Right.
To have a pavilion rental and only have 25 people there, we felt we weren't comfortable with that. But now that it goes to 250 and even with the 50%, pavilions seat approximately 64 people. So we feel comfortable with opening the pavilions at this point.
Capacity for the pavilion?
The resolution is here. I could pass it around for everybody to read. And that was adopted by the Board of County Commissioners. This is also some guidance that was sent to me yesterday, I believe. One of the days, and maybe Tuesday it was.
Yes, and I came from the solicitor, saw that on the municipal dissemination of their organization.
And then here is also the guidance, Governor Wolf's updated business guidance on outdoor recreation, available for yellow and green phase of opening, and a lot of the stuff we talked about, is in here with the numbers of 250 and 50%. Now, I looked on the state parks website. I did not see anything as far as numbers for campgrounds yet. Maybe it's coming out, now that it just entered the green phase. I know it did say the beaches would open June 6th, and then there was a 50% capacity on the beaches. Now, whether it stays 50% or they move it up to 75%, I believe under the county's guidelines, when we entered the green phase, we were going to move it up from 50% to like a 75% capacity, which would be, roughly I think 600 people was when we were looking at numbers wise and people wise and also square footage wise. as far as what we feel would be a safe square footage for people on the beach to social distance. We came up with it was 600 people is what we would be allowing into the beach area, which would also include the picnic area. But the picnic area has been relatively slow. I haven't seen many people at all in the picnic area. It's mainly been the beach and swimming area. Any questions on the COVID-19 update?
No.
Dave, excuse me, Daryl. I didn't quite hear the part. The conversation phase out of time. You say as of the green phase now, the park is going to be open to the general population or strictly still county? I didn't hear that part.
No, it's strictly county through June 30th. So that means July 1st it would open up to non-county residents, with it being 75% capacity under the green phase.
With what date? How many percent what?
75% capacity people. So right now it's county resident only through June 30th. We entered the green phase, so it was 50%. It now moves to 75%. And July 1st, it will also include non-county residents.
July 1st, okay.
Yeah.
Beach, are you making restrictions there as far as people distancing or whatever? How's that going to work out?
Yeah, it was 50% under the yellow phase, which looking at the square footage of the beach and looking at the square footage as far as people and social distancing, it was 400 people is what we came up with. At 75% capacity, it was 600. Give or take, because you're going to have people leaving, and obviously it's hard to track how many people are leaving, but I know on Tuesday the Rangers had to consult with the lifeguard as to, conditions, crowding conditions, and make a determination as to whether we were going to close it.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Any other questions under the COVID-19 update?
No.
No.
No, Dave, thank you.
Okay, another item. The second item on the agenda is the Park Ranger 1 training requirement. This was added to the agenda. We had sent your agendas out, so this is a new item, Daryl, on your agenda. You don't have the new agenda in front of you, but one thing that came up was the Park Ranger 1s and the training requirements and how difficult it has been. Not only how difficult has it been to get Ranger 1s, but also there was concerns raised with a Ranger 2 that has Act 235 training with firearms. Somebody that's able to carry a sidearm as like a school officer, security guard, and not being able to do so here. We do come across some situations. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen all the time. There was an occasion where I believe the Ranger was called to Boat Launch B to see if there was an individual down there that was he was described as being suicidal, and he had a 9mm handgun, believed to have a 9mm handgun on him. But there's situations that the Rangers maybe will come across, and the feeling is if somebody has a sufficient amount of training, if we feel the Ranger has a sufficient amount of training, if it's going to help that person to feel more comfortable performing his duties, do we want to change that training requirement? Because right now with the Ranger 1s, this individual, this park ranger, would not qualify. He does have the Act 235 training with firearms, which is the first part of it. The second half of it is that they would need to have Act 120 training or previous law enforcement experience. So the question is do we want to maybe change those requirements where an individual where a ranger has, and this particular person here has been with us for a number of seasons. I believe 2 or 3 seasons now he's been with us. Do we want to maybe change the requirements where we can allow somebody like that to carry a sidearm, and then actually bump them up to like a Ranger 1 position, where they would get, a little bit more pay, because obviously they would have a little bit more responsibility as a Ranger 1. Generally, the Ranger 1s are the ones that will handle the citations. They're the ones that are expected to issue the citations based off of information that a Ranger 2 maybe would gather, relay it to a Ranger 1 for enforcement. So Ranger 1s are considered the primary enforcement rangers. And let me get the job description in front of me, and I could read to you. So yes, they must possess Act 120 training or similar law enforcement background training and experience. Right now it's Act 120 training. The question is do we want to change that to Act 235 certification with firearms? It's a different training program. And Daryl, you might be familiar with it, the Act 235?
Somewhat, Dave. Some years ago, I believe it was a 40-hour course, but I do not feel that anybody carrying a firearm should have any less training than Act 120 plus experience, Dave. To carry a firearm, you not only have to be proficient at it, you have to know when and when not to use a firearm, Dave. So I believe in having the Act 120 plus experience carrying a firearm. You're getting to a tough area there when you carry a firearm.
The Act 235 is, Terry, if you're not familiar with it, and Kevin, as Darryl pointed out, it's I'm not sure what the hours are, but there's with and without firearms.
Okay.
A lot of school resource officers or security guards are now are taking this training, and that's what what equips them with the sidearm for like the schools or security guards, that's that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Now, like this individual we're talking about, I mean, I was able to work with him for the past few seasons, so I've gotten to know him. I know how he performs from a performance standpoint. Would it be possible, Darryl, to maybe have like a probationary period where we wouldn't allow that person to carry a sidearm until he's worked for us for so long, and we were able to see how that person performs? Is it somebody that tends to escalate situations, or is it somebody that keeps a calm head and is able to de-escalate situations? Would that be a possibility as far as like having a probationary period? They work with us for so long. If they have the training and we're comfortable with it, at the county's discretion in consultation with the park director, that we would allow that. Or maybe even have like an age limit on it if they have to work here so many seasons.
Is there currently any probationary period listed in the job description?
No.
None.
No, just the natural one that within 6 months, we could fire. There's a natural probationary period for a new hire of 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, which you can just fire them, at our will.
Right.
But that's the only thing.
Yeah, I think it's coming up for a couple of reasons. One is that if a ranger has the training and is able to carry a sidearm on another job, that person is not just wanting to carry the gun here, but wanting to because he would feel more comfortable in doing so. And then the second aspect of it is that the Ranger 1s with the Act 120 training are primarily police officers, and they have been very difficult to fill those positions, if not impossible to fill those positions, because number one, if they're police officers, they're interested in being a police officer. If they go to Act 120 Training Academy, that's what they're interested in being, is a police officer. They're not interested in a seasonal job. They're looking to work for a police department, whether it be part-time or full-time. Full-time officers, you can't get the full timers. The part timers are working sometimes, and we did have part time police officers here years ago before we carried sidearms. And the part time police officers, I could tell you, they were working at 3 or 4 different police departments, and their availability just was very, very limited. A lot of times, you'd have them on a schedule, and they would wind up calling off because they got shifts offered to them at one of the police departments, and you can't blame them for that. That's what they're looking to do. That's what they want to do for a career. So it's been very difficult trying to land Ranger 1s with the Act 120 training. You almost need to get like retired police officers, and I have reached out to retired police officers, and from what I'm gathering, they're not really interested in the law enforcement profession anymore. They've done it, and they've dealt with it, and they kind of have moved on from that and are looking for something different. You have any thoughts, Daryl?
Well, yes, Dave, I'm going to stick with that. Ranger 1, to carry a firearm must have the Act 120. That's a tremendous responsibility carrying a firearm, and everybody acts different in a situation. So I'm going to stick with that there, that they must have Act 120 plus preferably experience. Because just because you can handle a firearm, you qualify with it, know the nomenclature, doesn't mean you know when and when not to use it. So I think you should look for somebody with Act 120.
Okay. And it would be something where they would have to qualify, regardless of what the training requirements would be under the county use of force policy. We fall under that with the sheriff's department. They would have to qualify annually with their firearm through the sheriff's department. Any other thoughts on the Terry? Did you have any thoughts?
Well, if you're going to make an exceptional probationary period, then that has to be across the board for everybody who.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
It can't be an individual thing that at will.
No, this would be across the board for anybody that would meet the qualifications. If we were changed the Ranger 1 qualifications, they wouldn't immediately be given the ability to carry a sidearm. They would have to, work with us for a certain period of time. Call it a probationary period, or whatever you want. But
Training.
in other words, if we're not, the person, that Ranger that I'm referring to, I know him. I've worked with him for the past couple seasons, and and maybe I'm comfortable with that. But somebody just coming in that I don't know too much about, I may not be too comfortable with that right away. So that's where the idea of having like a some sort of a probationary period came up.
Dave, if I could interject on
Yeah.
this, I see 3 things here. Obviously there's the parliamentary process. Someone would have to make a motion, second it, then a majority would have to vote for making a recommendation for the commissioners to consider, say, a Ranger 1.5. And then probably 3 aspects I think the county would have to hear or know in that. One, what's the minimum training requirement? And I know you're saying Act 235. Secondly, what would be the experience in the park that you're referring to? 2 years having worked in the park so you can observe him. And third, you'd have to recommend a rate that would be considered. And understand we have to look at it from a financial, but also a liability. We'd have to go back to our P Corps, who's our insurance, and say, okay, what are the liabilities? Does it significantly influence or impact our risk? Are we willing to accept it? And then what is the upfront financial cost to modify the policy? And it may be minimal, but again, I think those are the 3 factors that we would weigh if a recommendation would come from the advisory board, to consider this, I'm going to call it a Ranger 1.5.
Yeah.
Ranger 1.5, let's use that term. How many, is he full-time then?
They're all seasonal part-time positions.
So how many,
but
if your probationary period for 6 months, so he's basically going to, let's say, 1 season without a firearm. I think the downside you're going to have, especially in advertising for a position like that, is somebody who has that training and a minimum of 2 or 5 years experience is not even going to consider this project if they've got to have a probationary period, which is in essence
whole
1
season.
year, a whole season.
Yeah.
That would be, you probably wouldn't get many applicants. I would think, from my point of view, I would think that's
Right.
most likely what happened. So I mean, you'd have to really give it some thought, jot some ideas down, and see how it would work. If they've gone through that type of training, they're not gonna want to wait 6 months, or in this case, a year.
No, because they can work anywhere.
Exactly.
Everybody's looking for them.
Well, then it could be without the probationary period, just require X amount of years experience, for the
experience
for
and
the
minimum
job
age,
itself.
minimum age.
Yeah. I agree with that. A minimum age is probably a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, you come out of high school and you go to a police academy. You can be 19 years old and have that, but that mentality is not going to do well with a bunch of campers that have been partying all afternoon.
I think Daryl talked about that maybe indirectly, that maturity level when
Yeah.
you're carrying a firearm.
Right.
Right. And that,
Yeah.
that
Right.
experience is really about maturity and how do you handle situations,
Correct.
and how do people see it. 19-year-old kid coming up to someone isn't as, let me say, as a deterrent or as intimidating, as a mature man or woman, whatever the case may be.
So rather than a probationary period, you're suggesting maybe look at the experience requiring
I
X
would
amount
give
of
him
years.
the experience, and if he's going to be Ranger 1.5, then he should be able to carry right away. And pick a minimum age 21, 23. 23 would, let's say, 2 years experience. That would give you a little bit a level playing field to choose from.
What's the F-120 minimum age? Is it 18?
I'm not sure.
I don't know
minimum
either.
age.
Daryl, do you know?
What's that, Terry?
What's the minimum age for F-120? Do you know? To
I
start the.
can't say specifically. I would think it's 21.
Okay, so then we're looking at 23 if you want.
But I believe
Yeah.
21.
So is this something that we want to table for the next meeting to give it more discussion and thought?
I'm not comfortable entertaining a motion at this point because I don't think we have enough information and
No, we
enough
need to-
guidelines to really figure out how this is going to work.
Yeah, I would
It's a
table it
tremendous
to next
responsibility carrying
Right.
a term that everybody reacts different in a situation.
Yeah,
People panic and
I'm not comfortable on voting on a motion that I don't know enough about.
Yeah, let's find out the minimum age
For Act 120?
and 235.
Right.
We know 235 is probably under, I'm sure it's under 21.
Yeah, I can't find an age. I'm looking at the act
Mhm.
right here. I can't
Is
see
that
an
235 or
age. It's
120?
No minimum
235.
age?
It's 235.
Yeah.
I think this needs further discussion before we entertain a motion.
Any other questions?
No? Not for me.
Not for me. Daryl, do you have any questions?
no, not at this point, Terry.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Food stand and camp store agreements were recently executed by the county on June 4th. We have the lease agreement for the camp store concession and also the food stand concession, and they're good for camp store is good for this year and expires on March 31st, 2022. And then the food stand was a 1 year agreement
And that'll go out for RFP for the next season.
expiring on
Okay.
December 31st at the end of this year.
There was an amendment passed to that for the concession stand yesterday at the commissioners meeting. And primarily what it did is it waived the June fee for the concession stand for Mr. Brown,
Okay.
which is about $1,250 a month,
Okay.
just because of the
Yeah.
the COVID
Yeah,
stuff.
Right.
We
Not
thought it
being away.
would be
That's fair.
Yeah.
Is there
I
any
missed that, Chris. What was that?
Yeah, there was a motion made and passed yesterday at the commissioners meeting, to more or less waive the fee for the concession stand, which if I recall is around $1,250
It
a
is,
month.
yes.
We waived that for the month of June, for the contractor, due to we know it was going to be suppressed requirement or demand. So again, we're just trying to be considerate of the contractor.
Yes, absolutely.
So there's two additional payments. The next payment will be July 31st, and then the final payment would be due 10 days after Labor Day, and then there's also payments in here for electricity for the season, per month electrical.
Yeah, and what was asked that in the future that the electric just be rolled into the rent amount instead of separating it out. The one thing when I reviewed the contract, I think we do a disservice to the park too, is that we don't require certain operating hours. For example, for me, the camp store, there should be Friday evening, Saturday and Sunday minimum, 4 hours on a Friday, 4 on a Saturday, 4 on a Sunday. I think when we relook both of these contracts, that we need to ensure that is placed in there, because again, when the contractor isn't meeting the needs of the people, they're not bad mouthing the contractor. They're bad mouthing Mock Chunk Lake Park, thus the county. You know what I mean? And we have to be considerate of the image and what that contractor represents or doesn't represent
No, I agree
to
totally
the
on
park. So that's something to keep in mind as, at least for the concession stand, which will be the first contract up for renewal that goes out to RFPs.
The camp store has been a repeated complaint from campers that he's not open the posted hours.
That's right, right.
That's not.
Right. You need to know you roll in here Friday evening, you're going to have someone there for a couple hours between 4 and 7, 6 and 9, whatever,
Yeah.
so that you can get your supplies, just like Saturday or Sunday. Yeah, so that's something just to think about as you guys move through the next 4 or 5 meetings, and maybe in kind of proactively be thinking about that. So when we come to you and say, hey, we're getting ready to send this out for an RFP, okay, here's what we would recommend.
That was
And
going to
then
be my question. What hours are required for the camp store and for the concession stand?
No.
Well, the
I don't see anything
concession stand's pretty obvious.
Right.
As long as the beach is open, he's open.
Well, now, that's not necessarily true, though, because if the weather gets bad,
Yeah.
he's not required. And,
No.
and that's reasonable, right?
Right.
Again, if there's not swimming taking place, and is he able to close, the swimming may be open till 7 o'clock, but,
They close a little early.
that's right, so an hour prior, because they want to clean up and
That's
get
right.
ready to go,
Yeah.
and people aren't,
But we need definition.
Yeah, yeah,
I'd
I
like
think
to see
that'd be great.
definition of
Yeah.
hours for both.
Any question on the food stand and camp store agreements?
No, we'll just continue that conversation on hours for both places.
We've talked it to death.
Park maintenance, lot done the past couple of weeks with getting the swimming area prepared, beach area prepared. We put additional signage up at the bathrooms and down at the beach area, social distancing guidelines and tips for hand washing and how to stay safe. Lot of cleaning of the bathrooms is taking place. We have additional cleaning times, so they're spending more time cleaning bathrooms. We have scheduled times, cleaning times posted at the restrooms, just so that people would kind of stay out of there for us, so we can get in there and give them a
Right,
real
get
good
it done.
cleaning, and they're also checking bathrooms in between too also. So the cabins, I know they've been hitting the cabins very thoroughly too as well, cleaning cabins after checkouts and checking them before check-ins, just to make sure everything's good. Mowing the grass, obviously, trimming weeds. We're still getting caught up there a little bit with trimming weeds, because we're spending more time on the bathrooms. Some of the other stuff is, we're still trying to get caught up a little bit. But we did pick up a new seasonal maintenance worker. We lost one, but we picked one up. He started Monday for us. So seasonal maintenance wise, we're in good shape. Seasonal maintenance wise, we did submit the worksite packet agreement for workforce training to get some of the younger ones out here, 18, 17, 18-year-olds, where we could give them a weed trimmer and they could take care of some of this stuff for us where we're a little bit behind. I know we wanted to get the potholes patched. I think we got a couple of them patched. There's some potholes at Bolt Launch A, Bolt Launch B, up at the main entrance. There's one down here by the beach. So that's on the schedule, so to speak. When we can get to it, we want to get those fixed before they get any worse. There was some trees that we removed down at the beach area. There were ash trees again that succumbed to the emerald ash borer, and there was, I think, 3 or 4 ash trees that we removed from the beach parking lot.
Dave, if I could inquire, and I know this had been tried, and it may have been multiple times in the past, if the prison board, starting next summer, would provide trustee work details to assist with things like weed eating, would that be something you all would entertain?
Yeah, as long as if they would have somebody there to actually supervise them.
Yeah.
That was always the issue, was having somebody that would actually be able to supervise them for the day. Yeah, I mean, I think the last time we did this, they did have somebody, a sergeant or whomever it may have been, that would come here and supervise the individuals. So if we were able to get that help and they would be able to kind of keep a watch on them and supervise them, we would take that help for sure.
Well, definitely, I'll bring this up. The prison board is next week. I don't expect it for this season, but again, it's looking ahead to get a process back in place to see if it makes sense. Part of it is the COVID too. We're trying to minimize because it's you get any type of COVID inside that prison. It's going to go through 150, 160. But looking at potentially next summer, so I'll raise that as something for us to start considering.
I would think the use of that resource, in my mind, and Dave knows the best, but would be early on in season preparation work.
That's
more
really,
so than daily maintenance.
Right.
Punch out all the stuff that you got to catch up on and get ready to open up.
That's when we had them come in when we did it the last time. It was usually, like Kevin said, late March, April, early May, and before the busy season hits. And then when the busy season hits, there's just too much going on.
No, that's better too from a supervision perspective, because what happens is family members who might be coming to the park, they drop cachets. Right, and that's when you start getting contraband potentially coming back into the prison. They'll come back here. It may be a couple beers, it may be cigarettes. So the less contact they have with the general public, the better. And that's why it's better again as the season is ramping up versus in the heat of the season when you have 1,000 folks running.
I'd have them there early, really before the camping season starts. Because I would think if they're going to be wearing jumpsuits, if you will, or prison garb, that's going to make campers uncomfortable if they're going around the campsite.
The only thing is that if you need them once the park is open, have them work 8 to 10, 2 hours or 3 hours.
Right, the first thing in the morning, before the park opens to the public.
Right.
And again, if you're wanting them out there cutting grass with sickles or whatever, right? You want them not in the heat of the day, right? So that's 6 to 9, 7 to 9 or whatever. Bring them in for a couple hours, and okay, that's all things. Again, we'll look into this as a potential for next year.
Anything else under park maintenance?
What's going on with the pavilion roof that you were repairing? Did you get that done?
Well, no, we haven't been able to get back to it. Just trying to get caught up with everything and getting everything open for the campgrounds when the campgrounds opened, and now the beach and the swimming area. So I was going to talk to Jack about that on Monday at the beginning of next week to see when we might be able to get back to working on that. And
Do you have the materials you need already?
we do. I
Okay.
don't know that we have all of them, but I think we have the majority of the materials. I know we have the metal roofing. I know we have plywood
Okay.
and lumber. Now the one side's ripped off, the other side isn't. So as they start pulling the other side off, they might need more plywood or boards. But I know we have all the metal roofing. We have the beams for the new beams that we were going to put in place, and we do have plywood and lumber. So most of the material, as I say, we would have. So I think once we get ourselves back into our routine here, and maybe Jack and Howie, or Jack and somebody else, two of them could work on the roof, and the others could tend to cleaning bathrooms, the trash
Right.
removal, and that sort of thing. So yeah, we do want to get that completed. Now it was rented. Fortunately, there was a couple of reservations where we were able to move them to another pavilion that was open.
Okay. Is there a safety
Others I
issue?
did call them. I don't know. Like there was one in mid-July, and I think mid-July. I don't want to promise them that the roof is going to be fixed, completed by then. So, I just told them to explain to them the situation, and they were going to reschedule or just get a refund. And some of them weren't even sure whether they were going to keep their reservation because they're just not sure what they want to do with the whole COVID-19 situation.
How much time do they need to finish that project? Do you have a guess?
If you could dedicate 2 people to the